Godzilla films have always been awesome, but there's one Godzilla film that everybody knows sucks. It's the 1998 American-made Godzilla film. I remember when I was a little duck-billed platypus, I went to the theaters to see this film. In those days, I wasn't all that familiar with Godzilla, but I knew that he was freaking huge, and most likely invincible. But after the credits rolled, I realized that this Godzilla is something far different from what I was familiar with. In fact, this Godzilla was a real pussy. What's interesting is that the director of this film came out as of recently and started talking shit about it. He argued that their plan for Godzilla made sense, but unfortunately wasn't fulfilling, as the film doesn't commit to how fans should feel about the monster. He feels that this was an even bigger problem than Godzilla's babies, which was another aspect of the movie that fans were highly critical of. And apparently that's a problem when a sequel setup takes over the story. The writer of the film had this to say about the director. I think part of the biggest problem was that I pushed Roland into doing the movie because I was a huge Godzilla fan. I grew up with Godzilla and it wasn't something that Roland had grown up with. He didn't have a giant passion about Godzilla. He was able to find a story with me that he could get passionate about, and he was passionate about the movie we made. But this was his take on it, as opposed to honoring the Godzilla legacy in a way that would make the people who loved Godzilla happy. And all this really seems to make sense, because what I remember about the '98 Godzilla film was primarily Godzilla just running around the city trying to get away from the helicopters and the militaries and so forth. There was even a scene where they baited Godzilla with a huge pile of fish, from which Godzilla ended up finding and eating some of it, only for the spotlights to get on him, and the military started blasting away at him. And from there he took off running like a little wimp. This Godzilla didn't even have atomic breath. What the hell? Later on, in the Toho film Godzilla Final Wars, it seemed that even Toho decided to distance themselves from this version of Godzilla that the American studios came up with. They had a Godzilla easily killed by another Godzilla, and the Godzilla killed looked very much like the '98 Godzilla, which the fan community has started calling Zilla rather than Godzilla. It's pretty damn pathetic, but I gotta say, a decade and a half later, when Legendary made the 2014 Godzilla film, all seem to be made up for, as Legendary's version of Godzilla is pretty darn awesome. But what do you guys think? Was the '98 Godzilla film a failure? Does it have any redeeming qualities? Let me know in the comments section below, and like this video, I'd really appreciate it. And I'd like to thank my patrons. You can support me on Patreon as well. A link can be found in the description below. I am the Iceman. Peace be with you.